I don't even know what these weapons are. I guess I want, if you could, for you to help the audience understand what the U.S. is confronting as it goes down this very perilous path.
Well, first of all, we don't know what weapons the Iranians have. That's the beauty of them saying we're going to unveil weapons that you don't know anything about. So it leads to speculation, and I would believe that we are reading far too much into that than reality suggests. I think when they say weapons that you don't believe we have, I think the Iranians have developed an Oreshnik analog, basically a medium-range hypersonic missile that can deliver, the kind of Oreshnik type kinetic warheads. I'm fairly confident it's not the Oreshnik. They don't have the Oreshnik. They have the Iranian analog to the Oreshnik. And I think that's one of the missiles that will be revealed. And we'll see it in all of its glory one night, because half of the Oreshnik is the psychological value of watching these projectiles come down, scream down at the speeds that create this horrific roar and impact on the ground. It's psychologically devastating. Imagine the Iranians delivering a dozen of these 3 weeks into this war, when we're running out of ammunition and they just unveiled a new weapon. So I think this is probably what we're looking at as they unveil new missiles. They might even unveil a few missiles of significant range that can strike targets in Europe. I would imagine that if the Iranians could, they would take out the bases in Europe, Lake and Heath, maybe some bases in Germany, take out Sofia Airport in Bulgaria. Sorry, Bulgarians, you shouldn't have allowed American airplanes to land on your runways, but strike European targets as well. Make Europe pay a price for the sin of supporting this illegal war of aggression. But I also think you're going to see them unveil new weapons, hypersonic weapons of great accuracy. But there's also other things at play here. Yes, the United States provided Israel with the targeting of Ali Khamenei. But let's think about it for a second. If Ali Khamenei wanted to be a martyr, wouldn't he make targeting easy? I mean, how much easier does it get? It wasn't the greatest intelligence coup in the world to have Ali Khamenei at home in his residence.
Exactly.
With other people having advertised at their meeting. This isn't the greatest intelligence coup in the world. This doesn't mean that the CIA and Mossad have a spy on the inside and all this stuff. It means that Ali Khamenei played the game and said, kill me and lose the war. And we took the bait. But now we look what happened in Israel. Beit Shaim, I think, is the name of the play. I'm not an expert on it, pronouncing Hebrew names. But the building that was struck was apparently hosting a very high-level Israeli military conference in great secrecy, a conference that, because of the sensitivity of the subject matter, the personnel broadcast, they probably didn't pick the location until that morning. So imagine you pick the location, and that's transmitted to the Iranians, who are able then to take a weapon system and have it launched in time to strike that building while the people are inside with great accuracy. If you're an Israeli and you're not scared to death by that, then you're not very smart. The Iranians have been hitting targets in Israel that these targets are designed to send a signal. They don't just hit targets of relevance. They hit them in a way that shows the Israelis that the Iranians know everything. Everybody talks about the Mossad penetrating the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Command. The Israelis have been penetrated by the Iranians. And I don't know how they're doing it, through technical means, human intelligence, a combination thereof. But the bottom line is Israel's being taken apart piece by piece by piece. And it's done deliberately. The Iranians are some of the smartest people on the planet when it comes to understanding the world they live in. Just again, to give you an example, in 2006, during that short war that was fought between Israel and Hezbollah, Israel sent some of their best special forces to to Lebanon to fight Hezbollah, and they're fighting for this one particular village. And I believe it was Sayat Matkal was getting ready to launch this attack to take out certain places. Matkal uses advanced frequency hopping tactical radios that are encrypted real time. So right off the bat, let's say it's a single channel, me talking to you, Danny. The signal is going to be encrypted, which means whoever intercepts it is just going to get digital garbage. And normally you have to capture that signal, handshakes and everything, take it back and have a computer process it. And a couple days or weeks later, depending on the effectiveness of the decryption programming, you can listen to what happened. But now we can complicate that because we have frequency hopping, 5 to 12 different channels, just pop, 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 pop. So if we're intercepting, we have to know what channel it is. And if we get on one, it instantly goes in. These are happening, multiple switches per second, which makes literal real-time interception and exploitation impossible, except that the Iranians were intercepting, decrypting these signals in real time, and then hacking into the signal and having a Hebrew voice operator who exactly mimics the voices of the Israeli commanders, using the code names, using their call signs that are supposed to be, only known to a handful. And they triggered an ambush by breaking in to this signal, giving the call sign of the commander and giving the order for execution. And Sayat Matkal, the Delta Force of Israel, stepped off into an ambush and got the crap knocked out of them. That's who we're dealing with here. The Iranians are that good. They hijacked the Beast of Kandahar. Again, hacking into a signal, satellite signal from Nellis Air Force Base to the drone, encrypted, hacking into it, stealing that drone. So these Iranians are very, very good. They're working with Hezbollah, who has, as I said, great capabilities. And the Iranians apparently are inside the Israeli decision-making cycle. And this attack on this building proves that. So now the Israelis are scared to death. You can have them out there. We're doing this. We're going to build a bridge to Iran, and our airplanes are going to go there, and they're going to come back and go there, and they come back, and there's no. Yeah, go change your diapers while you're saying that, because you know that the Iranians are on you, and at some point in time, the next missile's going to hit your damn building, and you're going to die. Your bloated corpse is going to be pulled from the rubble. And that's the fate that many Israelis are recognizing is their future if they can't win this war. This is why Israel stopped Donald Trump from pulling the trigger back in January. They said, don't do it because we can't win this thing. And they also said, don't start this thing unless you can guarantee victory. And this is where we come to the last phase of regime change, because the advice I just put out there was the advice of Israelis who may not be friendly to Iran. They may promote greater Israel, but they're realistic. Benjamin Netanyahu, when he came to the United States, and I said it at the time, just on record saying it, so I'll say it again. He came to the United States to tell Donald Trump to work with Donald Trump on how to use diplomacy as a means of setting up the next attack. Yeah. It wasn't about setting the conditions of a nuclear negotiation or anything. It was how to use diplomacy to set up, because immediately Donald Trump said, we're entering into negotiations. And they began that process. They had made the decision that they were going to attack and when they were going to attack. And that decision was made back then. Benjamin Netanyahu did this against the advice of his senior military commanders. He said, we can't pull the trigger until we have guarantees. And he came back and said, I have the guarantees. The United States is going to do this. Now, one of the things that happened is after he told his people that and they began preparing for this war, which they would initiate, the Joint Chiefs of Staff started saying, well, maybe we don't have a plan. Maybe we don't have enough ammunition. And that created problems. But Netanyahu overrode these people and said, no, we're going forward. So now when the air campaign starts to peter out and Israel's run out of ammunition, run out of interceptor missiles, Israel's getting pounded to death. The United States can't finish the job because we're out of ammunition. What do you think the political future of Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be? Do you think that he's going to emerge as the modern day, David Ben Gurion, a hero, or is he going to be reviled as a despicable, cowardly liar who led Israel down the path of destruction? So in addition to Donald Trump being toppled, Benjamin Netanyahu could very well be toppled too. This may be one of the greatest regime change operations in the history of regime change operations, but not the way those who envisioned it. And we can go on and on and on. For instance, Bahrain. I bring Bahrain up. I've traveled extensively through the Middle East, but I spent an awful lot of time in Bahrain. That was where the UN weapons inspectors would go to train up before we deployed to Iraq for our missions. And I'm very familiar with the Shia of Bahrain and the Khalifa family that governs Bahrain. A good friend of mine was my deputy commander, and he, we had a unique kind of team, a bunch of alpha males doing some alpha male stuff. And when they came back to Bahrain, they like to let off steam like only alpha males can do. And they had befriended the Gulf Air Stewardess Academy. They knew the head of the academy. And so these guys would all get dates with the Gulf Air stewardesses. And they'd go out and they were just having the time of their life. I mean, they were living the life. But you'd sit down with these Gulf Air stewardesses and have meaningful conversations with them. And you realize just how despicable the Bahraini government is. These girls are brought in not just to be flight attendants. They're brought in to be prostitutes. The Khalifas are the epitome of the elite Arab ruling class. Sick people of the worst kind. There's nothing redeeming about any aspect of them. They are just too rich to understand the reality of life. And they are replicated in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in the United Arab Emirates, and elsewhere. There might be some people who are noble, the exceptions to the rules, but the bottom line is these royal families are all the same. They're all the same. People who claim to be pious Muslims, and yet they fly to London, and as halfway there, they take off all their clothes. They come back and pretend that they're all pious. If you come from the causeway from Bahrain to Saudi Arabia, as you enter Saudi Arabia, you'll see a plethora of small mosques. And these mosques are built by pious Saudi men who, coming across, realize the sins they have committed. And so they absolve themselves by building these small mosques and say, I am now repented, I am clean, I am pure, till the next trip to Bahrain. Bahrain is a den of excessiveness. But the population is majority Shia, and they hate the Khalifa family. They hate the Khalifa family. As Iran is bombing the Muharraq facility, Fifth Fleet, and starting to bomb targets in Manama, the Shia are in the streets cheering. We may get regime change in Bahrain. The Saudis are sort of worried about what's going to happen in the eastern provinces, because that's where the bulk of their oil production is, but it's also provinces dominated by a Shia majority population. Israel dropped 6 bombs on Tehran, killing Ali Khamenei. Do you think the Shia of Saudi Arabia are just going to sit there and say, that's okay? Do you think the Catholic of the world would say, that's all right, you killed the Pope? No problem. We'll vote for another one. We'll wait for the smoke to emerge from the chimney. No, there'll be outrage, people rising up. So there may be more regime change. These Gulf Arab states who encourage this war as a mechanism of getting rid of the Iranian government, the Islamic government, so that they could betray their people by fully embracing the Abraham Accords, which would elevate Israel into the supreme economic power of the Middle East. If they lose, and they're going to lose, they may feel a backlash from their people presents the end of these disgusting regimes. So, who knows? We may get lucky here and emerge this time in 6 months to see that these corrupt, disgusting Gulf Arab sheikdoms and royal.
Scott, I think I lost your connection. Are you there?
I think the Saudis just jammed our signal, so I need to stop talking about it.
You were just saying the Saudi oil sheikdoms continue. I think we lost the last part of that.
No, I'm just saying that this regime change swords cuts both ways, and I think you're seeing a lot of fear now in everywhere. I mean, I was interviewing Nafal yesterday on X. He was just an Israeli apologist of the worst sort. But he was sitting there doing his Israeli apologist thing. when I reminded him that Dubai was a target. They would never attack Dubai. I said, yeah, they would. They're going to attack Dubai. And as we spoke, Dubai was being attacked. And you suddenly saw the look on his face. He went, this shit just got real. Yeah. And that's the same look that's on the face of the various sheiks. This shit just got real. And they're sitting there looking at it going, they're attacking us. And the people on the streets are loving it because these sheiks are not well loved at all. They live this excessive lifestyle. They're elitists. They abuse their power, their authority. And now people are looking out, realizing how fallible they are because they're not all powerful. They're not all strong. And the Iranians are taking them down. And there are significant Shia populations. Again, I don't know how they're going to respond, but I would just imagine that when you kill the second important person in the Shia faith, don't expect the people to rise up in the streets and pop corks of champagne.
Mm-mm. No. And maybe just to close with your final thoughts, I just want to show people exactly the kind of things you are talking about. We're talking about just one day, Scott, and I just want people to know that Israel has absolutely taken it, because there's a lot of people out there, Scott, that don't believe anything is going on, that Israel has not taken any hit. This is one day of a country that is saying it's fighting, it can fight for years, experiencing this kind of damage. And here's the damage done to Beit Shemesh, I think you were talking about earlier, Scott, and their body bags. And this is going to continue to get worse, it seems like, Scott, because Iran has promised that they have years of this in them. And, and then we have this horrific, I don't know if you saw it, the Israeli FM spokesperson went, I believe this is to Tel Aviv, to show and say Iranians are targeting children, elders, and this is the response he got from the media, which to the credit to whoever asked this. Here we go.
So schoolgirls in Iran that are being killed in a strike at there.
This must stop. This must be stopped, and this is what we're trying to do. Yes, next question, please.
Just completely. I mean, like literally somebody just in front of a building that has been blown out by Iranian fire asked the question. This is who the U.S., this is who the Trump administration, people like Lindsey Graham, this is who they're supporting. This is they're one and the same here.
Danny, Gaza.
Yeah, exactly.
Gaza. Why are we surprised? Why do we even think there's an iota of humanness in the Israeli government? These are despicable, genocidal maniacs. And if you're not Jewish, they view you as goyim. They say it. I'm not out here spouting anti-Semitic tropes. They say it. You are inferior to us. We are the chosen ones. God has given us the right to greater Israel. Hell, Michael Huckabee said that. He agrees with that. Tucker Carlson's interview with him the other day. Why do we expect anything different from these people? No. These are horrible human beings. These are people who slaughtered tens of thousands of Palestinian children. In Rajab, never forget her name, but she's just one of thousands that the Israelis mowed down, massacred. Israeli snipers would print T-shirts bragging about they shot a pregnant Palestinian woman because you got two for the price of one. They would wound a Palestinian mother to have the child come out to try and rescue and kill the child in front of the mother. So the child bled out in front of the mother who was bleeding out. So the last thought in the mother's mind was her dying child. That's the sickness of these people. And so what, we're supposed to pretend that somehow, this poor Israeli spokesperson was confronted with, very difficult. No, he's a murderous sack of crap. They all are. They all are. There are no innocents in Israel at this point in time. If you didn't believe in this, you would have left. But if you stay in Israel and plant your flag in Israel, you are buying into greater Israel, which means you're buying into the concept of Zionist supremacy, which is an excuse for all host of sins, including the murder of Palestinians and the ongoing murder of Iranians.
Yeah. And I think very well said, Scott. We had a lot of questions from the audience. How about I just ask you one? You can answer as quick or two, and you can
answer as many as you want. I'm in a combative mood, so bring it on.
Well, here's an interesting question, Scott, given all that we've talked about. What needs to happen for the pro-Pahlavi Iranians to overthrow the current government? What do you have to say to this, Scott?
Well, understand that when you say pro-Pahlavi, and you're talking about basically the son of Reza Shah Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, and Reza Pahlavi. First of all, he can't overthrow anything. What he is reliant upon is the United States and Israel to create conditions in which a sufficient number of people within Iran rose up and took matters in their own hands. This is the president's own game plan. And so, right now, Pahlavi, through the Israelis, has been able to infiltrate certain cells of opposition throughout Iran so that at any given demonstration, there's a handful of people who suddenly unveil the Iranian monarchist flag, the flag of Iran with the lion there, with the sword, and shout things like "Death to Khamenei" and "Long live the Shah" and all this stuff. And then they quickly put those away and run away because they can't stay there for too long because the Iranian security services will come in, knock them on the head, and pull them away. But they do this, they film it, and then they broadcast it out so idiots like the people in the chat can go, "Oh look, the Shah is very popular in Iran." He's not. There's no chance whatsoever. There's a reason why Donald Trump won't meet with Reza Pahlavi, because he doesn't want to breathe life into something that has no chance. There is no viable constituency inside Iran. When the embassy was taken over in 1979, the students that took it over got a hold of the CIA vault. The CIA had been frantically shredding documents, and they were using, I think, 1/8 inch shredders, not crosscut, single straight line shredders. And they put them in these bags, and they didn't have a chance to burn the bags. So the students got them. And then they had the greatest student project in the history of student projects. They all sat down and they pulled these strips out one by one, and they lined them up and they taped them together, and they reconstituted the documents. And then they published these books. And it is a condemnation of the role played by the CIA empowering Reza Shah Pahlavi, the Shah, the complicity between the CIA and the excesses of Savak in torture Iranian people. And this book has been read by every Iranian. They all know the truth. And you really think for a moment that the Iranian people that live in Iran want to return to this? The Reza Pahlavi has a constituency in the Iranian diaspora here in the United States. People today whose parents fled the Islamic Revolution because they were complicit in the crimes of Reza Shah Pahlavi. They came to the United States. They've established themselves as business people here, and they live the fantasy of first of all, they've whitewashed the time of the Shah. I mean, their defense of the Shah is to show us pictures of women in Iran in the mid-1970s. Iranian women are good-looking women. There's no doubt about that. You put them in a mini skirt and boots and Western-style hair, and you're like, wow, they're all like, Raquel Welch's. You're running around, Persian Raquel Welch's. And they're saying, this is the glory of Iran.
Scott, we lost you at "This is the glory of Iran." Sorry, are you still there?
Now I've pissed off the Iranian women in diaspora, so they're jamming us too. But my point is the simplicity of the argument here to sit there and defend the horrific excesses, criminal excesses of Reza Shah Pahlavi by showing a bunch of hot Iranian women in miniskirts. It just shows how stupid people are. The Iranian people know the truth about this, and there will never be a moment when the monarchy has any chance. If Reza Pahlavi, let's say hypothetically, the Islamic Republic fell, and there was chaos and the people in the streets demanding an alternative. If he showed up, he'd be killed. He has a zero life expectancy. Nobody supports him. Nobody believes he's viable. They just need him to serve as a motivating point for people willing to commit violence in his name, because that's all he's good for, is to have a bunch of Iranians in Iran believing in him, murdering other Iranians to create the perception of society out of control.
Yeah. And what you were describing, that tactic of using beautiful looking women to sell this sort of thing, it's very Israeli too. This is what Israel does all the time.
That's what they do.
Which again, that's only further insult to the Iranian people. So here is another question. I think this is a good one. We've seen multiple regime changes in the Arab-speaking world, Iran being the latest target. What's the end game here? I don't understand the why for all this death and destruction.
The end game is greater Israel. There's the why. That's it, Greater Israel. The goal is to collapse any notion of sovereignty, any notion of Arab self-governance, any notion of Arab respect, and replace it with a region that is totally subordinated to Greater Israel. There's your goal. There's your objective. Iran was the thing standing in the way. Iran was 90 million, believers that said that, Iran is the only nation. It's just amazing. The Persians of Iran, in their constitution required to support a free and independent Palestinian state. It's part of their constitution. Persians, non-Arabs. And the Arab world is governed by leaders who have abandoned the Palestinians, who have sold out to Israel. The king of Jordan, if there was any justice, would be dragged through the streets of Amman and hung upside down like Mussolini so the collective population could spit on his corpse. He's sold out. He's betrayed the cause of his people, this last of the Hashemites. He's betrayed the cause of his people. He's betrayed himself. He stands for nothing. He is literally the definition of sellout. The Saudis are the same way, talking big in one way, meeting with the Iranians, shaking hands, saying, no, we're friends and brothers, and then telling Donald Trump in the background, kill them, kill them, kill them. The same thing with the United Arab Emirates. I love the umbrage. Why are you attacking us? Because you have encouraged the United States to kill them, kill them, kill them. You are complicit in the crimes of the Israelis because you are secretly the allies of Israel. You believe in the Abraham Accords. You believe in the empowerment of Greater Israel. That's what's going on
here. Yeah. Great point, Scott. Here's a member for 14 months. Thank you, Kevin. Please advise what's going on with Iranian missile defense provided by Russia and China. Are they working or not? Are they being used? Scott, any insight into this?
Again, I don't know enough to be definitive about this. I would just say the following. Missile defenses are not standalone systems. They have to be integrated. If Iran started receiving advanced Chinese and Russian missile defenses, they're not integrated at this point in time. There is not an integrated air defense network. You might have nodes of protection. First of all, Iran is a very big country. Question, why do Ukrainian drones roam freely in the interior of Russia? Because Russia's a big ass country that you can't, have levels of air defense throughout. Once you break through that initial screen, there are nodes that you can maneuver around and then hit your target. Iran is a very big country. They have screens. They have places where they've put air defense. But there's much of it that you can't defend against. And again, please have respect. I know people, the I hate America, spirit is out there. At least put your thinking cap on. What do you think we've been doing with the $1 trillion we spend on defense every year? I know we line the pockets of defense industrialists and congressmen, but some of this money actually gets spent building weapons that are pretty damn good. And we put it in the hands of men and women who are highly trained on how to use these weapons. And they train in realistic fashion. And the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy trains extensively on what's known as suppression of enemy air defense. We train for it 24/7. And the U.S. intelligence community is very good at collecting this information. You don't think for a second that the Russians provided S-400s to Turkey and S-400s to India, and the CIA hasn't gotten the complete package of information about how that system works, brought it back, and we've replicated it, we've been training against it. You don't think that's been happening with the S-300? You don't think that's been happening? You don't think that when Iran provided some of the most advanced air defense systems to Syria as part of the agreement with Bashar al-Assad, when Syria fell, you don't think the CIA ran in there with their technical exploitation teams and grabbed this stuff and brought it out? What the hell do you think I did for a living for a while, guys? Okay, I know what I'm talking about when I say this stuff. We're pretty damn good. It doesn't mean the cause that we're fighting for is good or supportable, but we're pretty damn good. All the people out there saying America can't fight, you don't know anything about America. We have the most capable military in the world, carrying out one of the most unsupportable, evil plans. It's not the military's fault that the idiots thought it was a good idea to put 6 bombs on Ali Khamenei's residence. They just obeyed their orders, but they had the munitions and the capability to do it, and they did it. So why aren't the Iranian air defenses working? Because we're better than Iran in this case. But the Iranians don't need their air defense to work. I remind people, we blew away the Iraqi integrated air defense network on day one of the Gulf War. Blew it away. And we were running around dropping bombs all over. And yet, we didn't destroy anything because the Iraqis were better at moving stuff out of buildings than we were at blowing up the buildings. And
right,
Scott,
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I've heard too that that's part of Iran's strategy as well with their mobile systems is to move them faster than they can be hit.
And they use decoys, extensive decoys. When you take a look at the images coming out, I mean, I remember during the Gulf War, I went to RR, and that's where Delta Force and Task Force 160 were. The Night Stalkers were based out of doing their counter scud operations, and I had seen a strike video put out by the Night Stalkers of them strafing what looked like a Scud launcher. And I'm looking at the video and I go, no, this is this is a decoy. But I told the guys, I said, you got to be careful, because if this was an actual Scud loaded up, fueled, and you were that close shooting, had it blown up, you'd be dead. You wouldn't be here today. The secondary would have engulfed you in flames. And that you just saw, their eyes go, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe we'll do this different next time. But my point is, you look at some of the strike video of what the Israelis are putting out there, destroying things that look like missiles, and many of these are decoys. I'm here to tell you right now that if it's daytime and a missile sitting there all by itself in the open, lined up, and you don't see indications of immediate launch, it's a decoy. And if I'm a targeter and I see a missile with the line up, I don't bother sending an aircraft there unless it can get there within 5 minutes, because if it's a real missile, it'll fire it and be gone by then. That's the standard. 5 to 7 minutes show up, 5 to 7 minutes having launched and gotten out of there. That's a standard from the Gulf War. It's a standard today. It's a good standard. If you can raise that missile and launch it in 5 minutes, you'll probably live. So if we're detecting a raised missile and we don't have an asset that can hit it in 5 minutes, we're not going to kill it and don't waste the asset. Because if we get there in 15 minutes and it's still raised, it's a decoy. and therefore they've tickled the system. So a lot of the targets being hit are decoy targets. Some I've met based upon the secondary explosion and the immediate proximity of people who looked like they were preparing for a launch were probably the real thing, which implies that we have an ongoing sweep taking place over the launch areas. But none of this is taking the Iranians by surprise. There will be casualties. That's just war. But the Iranians are playing the odds. The Iranians are playing the odds that using enough decoys, let's say I want to do a launch operation. Again, I'm just using what the Iraqis would do. They want to do a launch operation. They will set in place fixed decoys, and then they will do mobile decoy operations that are designed to divert resources away. And while we're playing games down here, over here, 2 missiles come out and fire against Iraq. And by the time we get there, they're gone. That's just the way this game is played. And this is what the Iranians are doing, in my opinion, is that they know where they want to launch. And what they do is they set up conditions. And some of these may be sacrificial. They may be telling guys, go out there. Your job is to get attention. Be obvious. Raise the missile. Pretend to have a malfunction. Hang around there because we need them to divert to you so these guys can fire the 2 missiles against Israel. And we're talking about a nation of people who embrace martyrdom, because if I told 2 Marines, all right guys, here's your job, you're going to get in this decoy, you're going to drive in the middle of the desert, you're going to raise the decoy, run around, do jumping jacks and push-ups until they bomb you and kill you, they look at me and go, what? No. That's not a good plan, boss. We don't want to do that. But the Iranians are like, you mean we get to join Ali and Hussein in heaven as martyrs? Oh, hell yeah. How can I sign up for that mission? So they're very effective. I think, again, we're not as good as we think we are. We're very good in terms of the weapons we have, et cetera, but you target based upon a fundamental understanding of the enemy. We lack any fundamental understanding. We've allowed ourselves to be infected by the stupidity of Adams and Laura what God, I can't remember that.
Loomer.
Loomer.
You keep manifesting her into the show.
Because she's just stupid. And I want people to recognize how stupid she is. And but the point is, we've allowed ourselves to be infected with this psychosis, and as a result, we don't respect our enemy. And the moment you stop respecting your enemy is the moment you've lost the war. Even in Vietnam, the people that fought the Viet Cong, they may have used derogatory terms, Charlie, Kong, zippers, whatever. Yeah. They never stopped respecting them, because the moment they disrespected Charlie kicked their ass. And I had my colonel fought the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong, and there was no love lost between him and them because they killed a lot of his Marines. He killed a lot of them, but never once did he have anything but the utmost respect for his opponent, his enemy, as a fighting force. He respected their professionalism, which meant that he had to work double time, triple time to make sure that what he was asking his Marines to do could defeat the enemy that was in front of him. But the moment you disrespect them, well, they're nothing, they're this, they're that, you walk into the ambush. Have you seen that movie, Kingdom of Heaven? Where the Crusaders march out to fight Saladin, God is with us, and they march out into the famous battle where basically the Saracen army sucked them in, no water, nothing, in the heat in their armor, and then basically annihilated them because the Crusaders lost respect for their enemy. They didn't understand what was going on. And I think that's what's happening here. We have a military that's being ill-advised by intelligence. They don't respect their enemy. They're denigrating their enemy. And as a result, we go off and do things, and we are falling into traps. I think a lot of the counter-missile campaign that's being run today is one giant trap set by the Iranians, who know us better than we know them. And one of the proof that this is the case is the fact that they continue to launch missiles. They're launching missiles and they're hitting targets, and they're not going to quit. And until we recognize that, until we change, my whole thing during the Gulf War is to try and get us to change what we were doing, because I was saying what we're doing is wrong. What we're doing is not killing Scuds. What we're doing is doing exactly what the Iraqis want us to do, and they will continue to launch missiles. If we want to interdict the Iraqis, we have to change things. And I was arrested by that. General Schwarzkopf arrested me for daring to speak out like that, because I was trying to create my own war and do all this kind of stuff. But I was right. We never stopped the Iraqi Scud launches because we had bought into our own simplistic analysis of who the Iraqis were and what the Iraqis were, and we never once gave them credit for doing innovative things. And I think that right now, Donald Trump is out there, and yet when you have Pete Hegseth benching 315 pounds, standing up and spitting out testosterone, and saying, "Oh, we can do this. God wills it." And everybody goes out there and says, "God's will, we can do it," without somebody sitting there going, "Hey, what about this, that, and the other thing? No, can you bench press 315? No, I'm too busy doing analytical work. You thin-armed, skinny-necked geek, get out of my way. I only want real men who can bench 315 pounds out here doing real manly stuff." And then they get sucked into a trap and they all die.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Scott, somebody wanted to ask the question if there's any news, because there have been news about Iran now targeting the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
We don't know anything really.
You're not going to sink the Lincoln right now. First of all, the Lincoln is way the hell out there. So the Iranians,
isn't it all the way out like 1,000 kilometers or something close to that?
So far that their air wing is not really a factor in this war as of yet. Yeah. They've taken themselves out of the fight, literally, because they're scared. But what the Iranians are doing is probing. They're sending out drones, trying to collect intelligence, see if they can get a visual or at least identify the various elements out there. Because as we, again, the Chinese are photographing the fleet in real time, and they're providing that real-time linkage. So it's not like the Iranians have to say, where's the fleet? But they need to know where the fleet is right now. Because if you're going to launch this attack, it's got to go through layers of defense. And so what you need to do is send a drone out there that is getting detected by radars. And as it's being detected by radars, it's capturing that signal and sending that signal back to either the Chinese or to the Iranians on what kind of radars are out there, the frequency, where they're located, et cetera. And you start building this map of the layered defenses to the Abraham Lincoln. And once you get enough of that data, you find the seam and you fire the missiles into the seam and you hope for the best. But we're talking about firing at long range. One of the things that's happened, though, is one of the key elements of our missile defense shield in the region is this advanced radar that was located in other day, air $1 billion radar, part of an early warning system to detect missiles on launch. It doesn't exist anymore because Iran took it out. Now, this was primarily geared towards detecting launches against Israel. If the Iranians are going to fire on the Abraham Lincoln, they're going to be.
Scott, it seems like you said if they're going to fire on the Abraham Lincoln, and that was the last thing we heard.
I guess I shouldn't get into a tactical discussion because the U.S. government will take umbrage. But but the point is, if the Iranians are going to fire against the Abraham Lincoln, they're going to do so from a location in the south of Iran, closer to where the Abraham Lincoln is. But so yes, they put drones out there, but these drones are reconnaissance drones. They're not really attacking. When they attack the Abraham Lincoln, if they attack the Abraham Lincoln, they will do so using hypersonic missiles with maneuvering warheads that are programmed to shoot the seam in the radars and have a good chance, a better than even chance of hitting the Abraham Lincoln.
Thanks. Yeah, Scott, I know your time is limited and you have been very generous. There was a question about your thoughts on the China's responses to this conflict. You did go over that a bit. And then I'm going to pull up some nice comments as you're talking in the last 30 seconds or so, because a lot of audience members,
I don't need
a lot of audience members came out and
I know I see them and I appreciate them and thank you. China and Russia, I think, are going to be looking for diplomatic off ramps to try and avoid the escalation of this conflict into economic devastation. They want to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. They want to prevent the targeting of oil fields because that's it. And they want to keep. I had this discussion with someone else too. Russia's goal is not to see the United States weakened or collapsed. Russia doesn't want that. Russia wants a strong America. Is about the Russian goal is consistency and predictability. And they want to be able to project that out. A collapsing America is not consistent. It's chaotic and it's not predictable. And it's a very dangerous situation. So Russia's not looking for America to be defeated here. What they're looking for is a viable diplomatic off-ramp that can preserve Iran as a sovereign state, a member of BRICS, and with a functioning economy that can be plugged into a Eurasian Economic Union.
We lost you at Eurasian Economic Union.
I can't say European Economic Union or Eurasian Economic Union. Apparently that irritates the.
It's haram.
It's haram. But I think China right now, they did what they could do to strengthen Iran's defenses. But their goal right now, together with Russia, is stability. And the key to that is not just the survival of Iran, but the continued viability of the global energy-based economy. And to do that, you need to ensure that a part of the world that produces 25% of the world's oil and gas resources isn't destroyed in the process. And so I believe China and Russia are making phone calls behind the scenes like crazy, especially to the Iranians, cautioning, saying, look, we will provide you intelligence. We will do what you need to do to keep targeting these targets that you're going after. I hope that's not a sign of having an on-air stroke, but okay, it was just an eye blowing up on me.
Yeah, please no.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But so the Iranians, the Chinese are in the posture like with the Russians to make Iran as strong as possible, but not to create the conditions for a war that is devastating on the global scale from an economic standpoint. So I think the Chinese are playing that role. It's a frustrating role for those people who support Iran, but understand this, that China needs Iran to survive. Iran is part of BRICS, a very important part of BRICS. And if the United States succeeds in removing Iran from BRICS, that is a fatal blow to BRICS.
Yeah, and Iran, as you said, Russia and China, Iran also doesn't want those things too. So they also don't want
correct.
The economic.
Correct.
Yeah, and that is important.
Although as our good friend Professor Mohammed Marandi has said, a world without Iran is not a world worth living in, meaning that Iran isn't just going to sit by and let the United States and Israel destroy Iran, that if Iran's going down, everybody's going down with them.
Yeah, I mean, they're already closing. The Strait of Hormuz is not officially closed, but they're. I mean, we're talking about Iran is showing that it's not going to hesitate if it needs to do that.
So it's the goal of China and Russia to ensure that Iran's not pushed into that corner. Exactly. And so as this war continues to go south, there are rumors that Trump has already been confronted by the reality that we're not achieving the objectives we wanted to achieve, and that he went through the Italians to reach out to the Iranians for a ceasefire. I can't say that I know this to be 100% case, but there's a rumor out there. If that's true, these are the windows of opportunity that Russia and China are looking for, because once you get that initial outreach, they're going to take that and run with it and keep that as a possibility, keep pushing the Iranians and working with the Iranians to achieve an outcome that, doesn't create the conditions for a resumption of this conflict, but an outcome also that doesn't humiliate the United States to the point where we have to see this thing through to its horrific end, to find a safe, face-saving mechanism out for Donald Trump. I think that's the goal right now of the Russians and the Chinese, is to find a face-saving off-ramp for the United States and Israel.
Well, Scott, we got to get you out here. We got to get out of here. I want to say that this was one of my favorite conversations. We got to get you on more to cover this horrific war that the U.S. and Israel are waging right now. I want to make sure everybody knows to go to the video description and support your work, your website /Substack, as well as places to support your work monetarily are also there.
Yeah, if I could just make it an appeal.
Sure.
I'm going to Russia next month if the United States government lets me. And it's a very ambitious program. I can't give away too much of it in advance, but one of it will deal with the role that Islam plays in the world today. It's a very important project, and if people wanted to support this, then you could go to my Substack, scottritter.com, and there's a donation page, and I can promise you any donations you make will be used to pursue this project. And it's become more important today than ever before, because when I first conceived it, we didn't have the reality of this existential conflict in Iran. That is, a large part of it is based on a misunderstanding of the Islamic faith and a perversion of the Islamic faith. And so now I've spoken to the people that I'm working with, and they too agree that this project that we had, which could have been sort of a minor project of interest, peripheral interest, has a potential of actually becoming a mainstream discussion about the reality of Islam, the compatibility of Islam with the rest of the world. And, this is the kind of healing approach we need, because one day this war with Iran will end. And when it ends, how do we live with the Iranians? How do we begin the process of healing the wounds that we have inflicted? And so I don't say I have the answers. What I say is I'm on a journey to find the answers. And anything that you could do to help me on this journey would be greatly appreciated. I'm an independent journalist. I don't allow anybody to pay for anything while I'm in Russia at all, even though legally I'm allowed to. I mean, there's an open license that says as a journalist, I can have people pay for my airfare, pay for my hotel, and pay for expenses. So I could go over there easily, and believe me, I have a whole bunch of people over there who would love to pay for all these things. But I only survive as an independent journalist by saying I'm under the control of nobody but myself. I have to work with them and all that, but these are my ideas. These are my standards, my messages, and I pay for it. I'm in control of the product. Nothing gets published that hasn't been approved by me and had been done by me. But this can only happen because, unfortunately, I'm not a independently wealthy person. I'm not Tucker Carlson with his multi-million-dollar. Right. I'm a middle-class American who's basically punching above my weight, so to speak, financially. And I can only do these things with the support of the people out there who think this work is supportable. So for the people that don't like me, I don't care. But for the people that do like me, if you would like to see this project go forward, and it is going forward. We've already met the initial threshold. But as you know, Danny, there are enhancements that can be brought to bear, things that you can do production-wise or things you can do in terms of expanding the scope of collection on the ground that can only happen if you have money. And so we're going to make this happen, but if you want to help me enhance it, go to the donation page and donate. I really would appreciate it. And I think you're going to appreciate it too when we come back with this, what I think is going to be a very impressive program.
Yeah, everyone, you could definitely check out Scott's website. I also put the donation link before the show started directly, so you can definitely assist directly. You don't even need to do 2 clicks, just 1. But without further ado, everybody, we're going to head out of here. Scott's got a busy schedule today on this Sunday. I just reviewed it. So let me say, yeah. I was like, oh, God, you have a 12 o'clock. All right, we got 2 minutes.
Rest, but I'm going straight from here to something else.
Oh, my gosh. Definitely get a stretch. Okay, hit the like button, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow morning, same time. I'll let you know who's on for these daily updates. Video description to find Scott's, to support Scott and to support this channel, Patreon, Substack, and more. Thank you, everyone. Super Chats, members, everything. I really appreciate it, but we're out of here for today. See you tomorrow.